Hello, my name is Damian Golik, and I'm going to be analyzing two articles from The Sun and The Telegraph about the UN sanctions on North Korea. The title of The Sun's article is Cracking Whip on Korea. North Korea slapped with a crippling fresh new sanction after China and Russia back US to punish Kim Jong over nuclear threat. Okay, so this article was made by Neil Barker. He made the article on the 11th of September 2017. For starters, the article states that the UN has voted to impose harsh new sanctions, but they never mention how or take consideration under how long it will take them to go in effect. We know this from previous experience of sanctions happening to other countries over like the war and other times. I also have noticed that the Sun's article has a lot of images, as the Sun is meant for a less sophisticated audience. This means they are less educated, meaning it would be easier for them to understand it all. Another thing that the Sun does is use sensationalist language. An example of this is the sentence, cracking whip on Korea. This makes Korea sound like it's a victim, as the whip are normally related to slavery and lesser than human, basically. The Sun also has a comment section on the website, so people can leave comments and how they feel about this news, and like basically spread it even further and share with friends. On the other hand, the Telegraph's article title is UN Security Council steps up sanctions against North Korea over nuclear test, but oil measures watered down. The article was made by the Telegraph's foreign staff, names who are not provided, unfortunately, on the 12th of September. So it came out after the Sun's, but it's probably still first-person gathered sources. The Telegraph also underlines key points, such as the most powerful nuclear test on September the 3rd. This makes it sound serious and makes Korea sound way more dangerous, but also grabs people's attention, as newspapers have to grab people's attention if they want them to get sold. The Telegraph is less visual-based than The Sun, as it is meant for a bit more sophisticated audience. That's why they have more text, and the text is still restricted because they still want a large audience to read it. In the article, 85 times the word and about 33 times the word the was used, as they could have used more complex language like such as and however and just in general that type of language. This would have limited, if they did use such words, it would limit the number of people who would understand what the article was trying to say. The Telegraph also commends Trump by saying today's resolution would have not happened without the strong relationship that has developed between President Trump and the Chinese President Xi. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but okay. But as we know, even if Trump says we have a great relationship with China, he could not mean it, as by his Twitter post back in June 2017, while I greatly appreciate the efforts of President Xi and China, it would help, as they were trying to help North Korea, it has not worked out. At least I know China has tried. This could also be taken as a provocative thing to say, as it seems he's implying that China tried but failed. What the articles are trying to make me believe. The Telegraph is trying to make me believe that the story is North Korea is a bad country and we should act against it. But it also gives you information so you think your own way. The articles basically tell the same story, but the Sun's is way more sensationalist way of telling the story, basically so it looks more interesting and sells, whereas the Telegraph is more straightforward way with a lot more detail, less sensational. The Sun is trying to make you believe that Korea is the victim by using words like cracking the whip on Korea and imposing harsh new sanctions. But the Telegraph, as I mentioned, is just trying to give you the information and kind of make your own opinion. Are the stories biased? Both the Sun and the Telegraph support the Conservative Party, so they could be biased in a political stand, as they would not want to make the party they support look bad in the news. But others than that, they really just give their own opinion, like what the companies like Trinity Mirror and News Corp allow them to say. So I had to examine another story owned by the same company, so I chose the News Corp side and I examined the Times. I had to examine what the story in a paper owned by the same company was saying. So the Times, who is also owned by News Corp, as I mentioned, just like the Sun, said China enforces UN sanctions against North Korea. The Times does not have a lot of information about the story, only has about 3 paragraphs there for it, but so it's not very good for finding a lot of information. And if you do want more information from this source in particular, it costs £1 per month to get more. It's a £1 subscription fee for news that you could literally find almost anywhere else. But the bit you can read uses not very detailed or anything. It states that China has banned North Korea, setting up new businesses and expanding existing ones is pretty much not allowed for North Korea because it would be against the sanctions they put on them. Is this biased because it's owned by the same company? From what I can see, the Times and the Sun are biased because they're owned by the same company, obviously, so they would not want to impact the presidents or the companies, parties they support. But on the surface, News Corp is a big company, so it doesn't really all focus around one biased opinion. Each news provider has its own way of providing the news to make it unique. But they all have to follow the same protocols set by News Corp and the news. Plus, News Corp is a huge company and with a global coverage, therefore they can't really be too biased, as that would limit the audience that would consume their news. So each different news provider that is owned by News Corp would present it in a slightly different way.